and welcome to the DNX podcast. My name is Sylvia Chrisman, and I am your host. I'm here today with my friend Melinda Wittstock, and I'm very, very inspired by her. So I'm very happy that you could make the time today to speak to us. Hi, Melinda. How are you?
Hey, Sylvia. I'm great, and thank you for having me on. I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, me too. We actually had a lot of opportunity recently to chat, so I'm super excited to record a podcast with you and really talk a little bit more about like what it is that you do. You're a podcast host, you travel, you inspire conscious leadership. So tell me and tell the audience a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Oh, well, that's wonderful. So yes, I do all of those things, and I think my entrepreneurial journey began when I was actually 5. I went around the neighborhood knocking on people's doors with my black lab to ask them to prepay for my show. and I wouldn't leave until I got like $1. And I remember going home and I had all this money, and my dad was like, "Where did you get all this money?" As I made like about $100. Just walking around on a Saturday afternoon as a 5-year-old. Okay. So like, where were my parents? Anyway, but I got home and I was really concerned because we needed enough seats for like 100 people.
Yes.
And I remember announcing this to my dad. Anyway, my show was pretty funny. I ended up like, I was into ballet and skating and all that kind of stuff. So I went around and I did all these kind of, cartwheels and flips and dancing and had a soundtrack, it was pretty crazy. So then my life sort of went from there. I've always been really entrepreneurial. And I've always seen just being an entrepreneur is really a canvas for innovation, for artistry, not just about business.
Oh, yes, 100%. That's so beautifully said. I like the idea of it being a canvas and artistry, because I do think of myself as an artist, and I went to school and I studied art, and then I became an entrepreneur, which to me makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it really does, because you're seeing things other people don't. You're seeing opportunities, and that's really what an artist does. I mean, you see things differently, and you innovate and create and bring people to new places of awareness. And I think that's kind of what I mean by conscious leadership, or being conscious as an entrepreneur.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I can really identify with that. I think that, when I studied art, I got really, really lost in my projects all the time. I lose days because I would just be so inspired by the work that I was doing. And as soon as I discovered entrepreneurship and started working with the first entrepreneur that I work with, I got lost in the process as well. And I do that until this day, that I'm so focused on a project that I just, I get tunnel vision and I just deeply immerse myself in it. And you won't see me for weeks at a time because there's something that I really wanted to do. And, I immerse myself in the same way. So
that's really beautiful though, because that means to me that you're very much in alignment with what you're doing. So when you love to do what you do so much that you lose time, that's a surefire sign that you're really doing the right thing for you. What makes your soul or your heart sing or whatever.
Yeah. And I think that's the important part. Yes, I do a lot. Yes, there are definitely heightened stress levels, but there is I jump out of bed in the morning every day and I'm excited about the almost all-consuming amounts of things that need to get done that could be overwhelming if I wasn't so excited about it.
Right. Exactly. No, I totally get it.
Yeah, 100%. So tell me, what are you currently working on that inspires you the most?
Well, I am so motivated and inspired with all I'm doing with this podcast that I started. So I host a podcast called Wings of Inspired Business. And WINGS stands for Women Innovating, Networking, Growing, Scaling. And really it was inspired by my own journey as an entrepreneur. I mean, often being the only woman in the room, struggling like most tech entrepreneurs that are happen to be female to get access to capital. We only get, VC qualified firms, companies that could conceivably have like $100 million exit or more, become a unicorn. Only get like about 2% of the available capital. And I really wanted to change that and change the game. Just kind of a passion, little side hustle. I started doing this podcast last November. I'm now up, in the high 80s of episodes. And I've just been so inspired by all the women that I interview every day. I mean, I just feel like I have this personal mastermind.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. I mean, and everybody that is on this, comes away from the conversations feeling like they have learned something, and I come away feeling like I have learned something, and all the listeners, I'm just getting a lot of great feedback, and it's turning into, like a lot of side hustles do, an actual business. And so I'm excited because I have a virtual summit coming up, the Wings of Success Summit in April. And Sylvia, of course, you are doing a training in this summit, but it's awesome. 50 really very successful female entrepreneurs talking about these 3 pillars of success as I see them: mindset, mojo, money. Like, you need all 3, and all 3 are really connected. And so the summit goes over 5 days. It's 50 amazing, amazing women, including you, talking about how all these concepts interrelate. And so I'm so excited about that and all the other things that I have planned, beyond that summit.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what comes next. What is a tip that you would give, whether it's a woman or a young entrepreneur that would like to step into their authentic power in order to really create something that's meaningful to them, right? Because I think a lot of people hear about what it's like to be an entrepreneur and how you get lost on this journey, but like, what are some actionable steps that they can take to get started?
Yeah. I mean, I've learned along the way my own path, because I'm a serial entrepreneur. So like, this is business 5. I mean, I suppose technically I'm running 2 businesses at the same time right now: Verifeed, my social intelligence platform, and then also Wings. And the one thing that I've learned along the way, and that every woman that I interview confirms for me, is that success is entirely in your head, and I guess in your heart as well. It really is what a lot of people call mindset. And I guess you'd add to it heart set, because it's really the heart and mind connection. And what I mean by that is really knowing yourself well enough that you are living a life in alignment with what your true purpose actually is, with the things that you truly value, the person that you really want to be, the business that you really want to build. I mean, who you are, that leverages, your greatest talents, but also the things that you really love to do. So I love that you use the word authentic, because that alignment, I think, is critical to success. And the other aspect of mindset, of course, is believing that you can. If you can't see yourself doing it, or can't feel the gratitude of having achieved it, it's very, very difficult to achieve. So practically what that means, and however you get there, whether it's using vision boards, whether it's affirmations, whether it's a gratitude practice, whether it's meditation, or just taking quiet time for yourself and self-care, and opening your mind, getting out of all the busy talk and all that inner critic, and opening your mind and your heart to actually receive inspiration and wisdom from something beyond you. I think all of those things, however you get there, and for me, it's a combination of all of those things, start to really open you up to not only being in alignment with your true purpose and really knowing yourself, but also being able to spot and act on inspirations and opportunities. And that's what I would call manifestation. And the more you do this and the more you get into alignment, the more amazing kind of things start showing up in your life, like coincidences or synchronicities, or just the right people seem to appear at the right time. And every successful entrepreneur arrives there at some point, not usually out of the gate, because part of the entrepreneuring process, I think, is to teach us some of these lessons.
Yeah. Yeah. So talk to us a little bit more about like not right out of the gate, because what I see a lot are these false expectations that it will happen right away. And oftentimes it's, it's underestimated how much work this really is and how much time it can take.
Yeah, that's right. So like entrepreneurship looks really glamorous. It's kind of, I joke often that it's the equivalent of being in a rock band in the 70s, right?
Yeah.
Because it really is. It's that kind of, admired and it is glamorous in the sense you think, oh, wow, I can be my own boss, right? I don't have a boss. The difference is, of course, you have many bosses, like all your customers are your boss, your shareholders, if you have them, are your boss, your team in a weird way is also your boss, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it's that's sort of some of the things that get overlooked. And there is a tremendous amount of responsibility because everything kind of does emanate if you're the founder, or on the founding team, from you and your founding team, the whole culture, everything, and your chances of success, what you're going to build. But I think, if I look back on myself in my 20s, say, there was nothing that I was just filled with confidence. There was sort of like nothing I couldn't do, like in my own head, which was great. Yeah. Right?
I call them my delusions of grandeur.
Totally like that, and it was wonderful.
Sounds like a good idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it catapulted me far and quickly. Like the fact that I'm Canadian, but I found myself as a correspondent on the Times of London as a journalist at age 22, writing about mergers and acquisitions and, having Rupert Murdoch stand behind me as I'm writing a story and things like that, and becoming the media correspondent, getting to like interview Steve Jobs, things like that. Right. And so because I just thought I was just invincible, like I thought my health, I was always, I didn't ever think that I could even get sick. So all those things were really good. And they tend to be things that a lot of people have in their 20s. But I think the other thing that we have, though, is that we are all on this kind of classic hero's journey, or maybe it's a shero's journey for women.
Yeah.
Where we all have something that happens in our lives that wakes us up or offers us the chance to be more conscious. And usually that's some sort of setback. And they happen. I mean, they just happen in life, and they're tests. I regard them as tests, and I regard them as learning experiences.
Yeah. And what was that for you?
To grow. Well, there've been a few.
Yeah.
There've been a few. I mean, in one case, actually one of the early ones, you just reminded me of one, I was talking about Rupert Murdoch and all that, so I'm a media correspondent, and I'm at the time, my early 20s, I'm writing about the media. So hence all of his international interests. And of course, I'm trying to be independent because that's my job as a journalist, which I took very, very seriously. One day, actually, it was a week after I'd won like 4 awards for my writing. And I was on television all the time, being interviewed about the stories that I was breaking. And, everything was going really well. And suddenly I was taken aside, given a massive pay raise, but put into a job on the paper that I hated. And I took it in like it was sort of the mindset I had around it was all wrong. Like in a way, it was like a tremendous opportunity because suddenly I was a business columnist. But at the time, I just loved my job so much, what I was doing then, that I took it as some big kind of like failure or something. And I look back at it now, I kind of laugh at myself because that's so funny. It's an interesting story to tell because often how we perceive these things is the clue to, right?
Yeah.
What we're going to do next and how we react. And I love the idea. I've arrived now at my life of thinking, these things are actually opportunities for growth. So I've had some bigger setbacks than that. I had in one of my first adult startups, I had a trusted advisor, embezzle like $40,000 from the company,
Wow.
which for a startup was a big, big deal. We survived and it taught me a lot though, which was good, about systems and about doing nice quarterly compilations, having, people do the reconciliations of the books, stuff like that, which I wasn't thinking about. I was this visionary creative founder. I'd started a content business. So, and I'm a trusting person.
Right. So what's the biggest lesson there when you feel like your trust was betrayed? What was the biggest lesson for you?
Oh my goodness. Well, I went through, all those stages, right? Like you go through this, I guess like anger, grief, or whichever order, it was. But it made me think a lot more about like the qualifying, people that you hire and why it's so important to have the right people around you. And it took me a while to arrive at this point, but it taught me about trust. And so often, trust is like, I through that decision, I actually ended up, through that whole experience, I ended up losing trust in myself, which was curious, which I had to kind of build back.
Yeah.
And I also lost trust in other people. I'd be a lot more like, are you sure? Right. It took me a while to develop that back again.
I think that's an important one, that oftentimes when we fail to recognize something, or when something goes wrong, we lose trust in ourselves, and that we wonder, why is it that I didn't see this coming? Right.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like all the recriminations and everything, and you look back. And the interesting thing though, you really do as an entrepreneur have to learn to let go of a lot of those things. Like say, for instance, you build a product that say you go into, as you were saying, Sylvia, you get really excited about a product you're building and you lose time and you're so excited about it and you build the thing and, oh, wait a minute, people aren't buying it.
Right.
Like nobody likes this thing that like I love, right? Okay, like this happens all the time for like product entrepreneurs and for tech entrepreneurs, because you have a thesis and perhaps you're inventing a market and your thing is way ahead of its time and you have to educate a market. You actually have to create the demand for your product. Well, that's not going to happen overnight. And it's really, really important to involve customers or potential customers in that creative process as soon as possible. And one of the things that I've discovered really about a lot of female entrepreneurs, including myself, I don't think I am this way anymore, but we tend to sometimes be so perfectionist. We'll work so hard to make it perfect before we show it, whatever it is. And that's almost too late. Because you want that, you want that kind of input, or at least check-ins with your potential customers, along the way as you're building, this product. But it'll also give you a clue in terms of what it is, what's the sweet spot that's really going to educate the market if you are going out there and really trying to innovate or change behavior.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, done is often better than perfect, because you have to learn so much along the way. I always say it's the erroneous ways that get us there. And if we're looking for perfection, we can't get there.
Oh my God. That's so true, because it's all in the eye of the beholder, as well. I think it's interesting if you go back and you look at someone like, say, Bill Gates, right? Who had this big thing with Microsoft that he was going to put a computer on every, in every home and every desk or whatever. But it took him a long time to figure out what that would be. And there's a story of him asking his mom, what if you had recipes? What if you had, and she said, well, I already have like a book of that. I don't need a computer to do that. And he was like, what if you had this, what if you had that? So it's like being really curious and asking all these questions. And I think my journalism comes in handy with this kind of thing, right? But really, being genuinely curious about how you will provide value for someone else. And so, but finally, he's like, what if you could send messages back and forth, all over the world? She's like, oh yeah, that would be different. And that was email. And that's really what got Microsoft going. So that was the killer app that made his vision come true. So it's difficult to know what your product market fit is or what the right way is without being in touch with your customers or your potential customers.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think, if you have one piece of advice of what like the biggest success habits are that you acquired as an entrepreneur, what would they be?
Okay. So number one, if you love what you're launching too late. Just to pick up from that, right? Because you really want to put your customer first and really understand, how you're going to kind of drive value, right? Okay, so just to pick up that, because that point is so important. And I don't know, in all my mentoring of founders, be they female or male, almost everyone gets so focused on the product that they forget their company and what's really going to drive the valuation of their company or the growth of their company. Right? More important than all of that really comes back to this mindset. Understand your why. Like, what is your why? Where are you going? Why are you going there? And really, really double check. If you find yourself saying things like, I should do this or I should do that, I should, that's the first clue that you're not living your own life, right? You've got to really, really question why are you saying should? It's different from saying I want.
Right. Yeah.
Because I should is kind of giving you a clue that, well, why should you? And so really kind of use some sort of Socratic questioning to really get kind of deep into your why. And there's a whole bunch of, exercises and things like that and methods to do that. But really do the thing that makes your heart soar. Because if you don't have the passion, it's very, very difficult to ride the entrepreneurial roller coaster because stuff is going to happen. Products are going to fail. Like the technologist that you hire is going to do a crappy job on the code or something like that's happened to me too, right? Or something's going to happen. Or my goodness, you're going to launch your IPO on 9/11. I actually, right, know people that their company died. Right? Like there's stuff that you just can't control. So at all like ages and stages and all of that. So if you don't have that passion to really see through those moments and those times, and also the willingness to just take failure for what it is, like a learning experience, you really, really need to be able to just philosophically like get in that mind frame as fast as possible to succeed.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you so much, Melinda. This was so insightful. I'm sorry. I was so amused by some of the commentary that you gave because it is so true, right? Like if you're loving what you're launching too late. That is my personal note that I took away from this. It was fantastic.
Well, yeah, we just tend to be perfectionist women. I don't know. Maybe we were just taught that in school when we said, does the neatness of my handwriting count? Like that.
Yeah, I know. This is great. Thank you. We're at the end of our time, so I really appreciate it. We are going to post all of the relevant links below for you, so that the listeners know how to find you, how to find the summit. I know it's going to be really exciting. I'm going to be there. I taught a course on there as well. So thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sylvia. You too.
That's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us and thank you for your ongoing support. Before I leave you, I want to invite you into my world. Please go check out dnxcommunity.com. This is where you'll find the other nomads and evaders of convention. We'll see you there. And if you're interested in our English-speaking events, go and check out dnxglobal.com. You'll find the link below this podcast as well. And if you have time, one last favor, please go to iTunes, look for Sylvia Chrisman or look for the DNX podcast and leave a review. Thank you so much, lovely people, and I'll talk to you next time.